and Sophia, and we here. Oh, good breath. Good cleansing breath.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I feel really hyped up. I was, a lot of times in the mornings, I will go into just my own little praise and worship. Depending on how long I'm in the car, I might listen to somebody always sends me some really good sermons or something. But today, I was listening to Biggie the whole way.
Oh, because it's Biggie's birthday.
It's not his birthday.
Anniversary.
Yes, exactly. Anniversary of his death. And
Biggie's
it's been about 26 years. And
Damn.
one of the DJs was like, yo, do you remember where you were? And I was like, I do. I was home, and my mother and a neighbor in the building was going out because it was her birthday. And it was just my mother and I, but she came in loud, which she didn't do. And she was like, oh my God. Her friend was like crying, like, how could this happen on my birthday? I jump up out of my bed, like, you know, I'm from Brooklyn. I live in the hood. So I'm thinking somebody got killed locally, like in who we knew. And I run in the living room, was like, what happened? And they crying. They was like, Biggie got killed. I'm like, but here I go joining in them as a teenager crying too, like, nah, not big, yo. That's not, we gonna have a hard time. Like, but this was like 3 hours in the morning. So this guy said that, and I just was like reflecting, like, what's my favorite Biggie song? And they were playing, no lie, this is how powerful law of attraction is. I said, oh, what's your favorite song? And I'm like, I got a story to tell. No lie, they played it 2 seconds later. That's not a song that you would play on the radio. And I'm like, getting my hand cool as a player. I don't want to blast. And I was like, oh gosh, here you, therapist almost 20 years saying I'm cool as a fan. So I'm pretty,
when you just
pretty
said
pumped up.
You said 26 years?
26. It was in 97.
So I don't remember things always based on the years, but as soon as you said it, I remembered where I was, like where I remember things based on where we lived.
Got you.
And then I can usually consider or figure out how old I was when it happened.
Yeah.
But it came to me, and I'm a Tupac.
Exactly.
Right? And so what Tupac was the year before.
Yes.
And so the way I got the news was Tupac's alive and shot and killed.
Oh no, I can't. I can't.
Because
but how many years they was like, yo, Pac is alive and he's gonna avenge the death.
I never stopped feeling that way, but
oh wow. Well, you should enjoy the new documentary that's coming out about him and his mother. It's airing on Netflix within like the next week or two.
Netflix makes me sick, but
it looks pretty good just by the clips. But I did think of you when I did see it. So yeah, I was 15 years old. You were 14, but yeah, we were 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
All right, you got the topic today. What's up?
I got the topic.
Yes.
Like.
Yes, you do, sis. This is a fight. If you guys haven't known, sometimes it's a text like it's on you. I
couldn't even. I said I was gonna trick you and be like, it ain't my turn. But I
and let it go. You should have let it go for like a minute. You more like a local cop than the feds. The feds would have let us get 20 minutes in and said, "Now here is what I'm presenting today."
I can't do that. All right, so you know how we do it. Mm-hmm. You know how we do it.
What did you feel, sense, call in for
or
today's
have a conversation, right?
Exactly.
And so, and it always starts with these damn kids. It's always these kids.
It starts with you for them kids.
No, quick backstory. Journey and I was having a conversation, as we do, and Journey makes this comment that she said, we don't need a man. We haven't had one for all of this time. What do we need a man for? My daughter is 10.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
And so when I was telling Sophia about this a couple of weeks ago, and she just was silent, y'all. She was like, I was coming to her in need of therapeutic feedback, and she was like, oh. And y'all know, Soph she very rarely is at a loss for words, right? And I was like, well, say something, therapist. And so she goes on and, what did you say? She made this comment that, well, look what you have shown her all her life, Suge. You have shown her and demonstrated to her that you don't need a man. And so, this brought me to think about, just as soon as 3 days ago, this whole concept of soft girl era. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that trend?
Yes. I think I reposted it before, but then I came right back and said I'm more of a Future era. But I know you don't know that. But the rapper Future, it's like, which one are you, sis? You soft girl era or you Future? And I was like, I'm Future. But yes, so I do know.
So, what's your understanding of soft girl era?
So what made me repost it is talking about Brooklyn. One of my childhood friends from like elementary sent me, I guess, one of the like definitions that was going around. And
what is it?
What stood out for me is the gentleness. Not only that you display to others, because sometimes even tough people will display a gentleness, but a softness, a compassion, self-loving time where you're not concerned with the validation of others, how it appears to them. It's really attending to you. And then I went further, of course, like all the people that mishandled me, I get to show me that gentleness that I was looking for from them.
Okay.
Even when I say it does sound yummy, it's just hard to embrace.
So let's see what our friends at UBA say, or not UBA, the Urban Dictionary.
Okay.
So the Urban Dictionary, soft girl era, phrase used by masculine women to state their transition to being a feminine woman.
Okay.
I don't love that.
Yeah.
I don't love the masculine piece, but we talking about Urban Dictionary, so it's okay.
But I could see it. You know how like we'll have multiple definitions. That would be my third. I'm not mad at it. I don't love the language, but I'm not mad at it.
Their second definition says it's basically the phase of life transitioning from being a thought to being a wholesome woman. That was a second definition. I think most of the posts and the references that I've seen have been more aligned with the first one, as far as letting go this masculine edge. I'm really struggling with that. So, Sophia, let's just consider your top 5, right?
Top 5 what?
Top 5 friends.
Okay.
Starting 5, right? How many of them are soft girls?
None. Not one. And let me clarify that for any listeners who think that they are my top 5 and think that I'm talking about you, right? So let me clarify that. What I will say is that the softness shows up in different ways. But to say that they are more soft than they are more dominant or
masculine.
So that's what I'm saying. Masculine, I could play with it, but I would say more dominant, more really alpha woman, just strong in more areas than not. I would say that none is more that way than not. But like I said, there are some of that top 5 that expresses it more than others.
Do you know anybody who's like really been in the soft girl era before it has been encouraged to be in the soft girl era?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. I was having a hard time, right? And
I do.
Are they black?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All the way?
Yes. Now, I don't know what Ancestry would say, but as far as their parents, yes.
All right. And so I was going back and forth, and I read this article in Fortune magazine, and it was discussing the overlap, the contradiction, the difficulty for Black women who are naturally seen as resilient, self-sacrificing, and just self-confident or what have you. And so it led me to start to think about, it's really, really hard as Black women to really get into the space of soft girl and to even stay in this space. And so then I started to think about what contributes to that difficulty. And the first thing that I came up with was the environment and the upbringing, right?
Yeah.
And so, going back to this conversation with Journey and, what I've demonstrated to her as it just being she and I in the household for all of this time, I've demonstrated that, hey, just by any means necessary, get it done. And so I was talking to my sister kind of in this same context, and it wasn't about being a single parent household. And my sister said something to me. She was like, think about it. If something needed to be fixed, JJ was getting the tools and she was fixing it. And I lived in the house with my mother and my father. And my father was, he worked and he did things around the house as well. But it was like, I learned from my first point of reference of woman by any means necessary. How do you see that kind of interplaying into the ability to embrace the soft girl life and era?
So I heard you say, quite a few things, that the environment
and upbringing.
Yes, environment and upbringing plays a big part. Yes, most of who we are at that early adulthood is one, of course, genetic, but then learned behavior, right? So we watching, if both parents are there, we're still watching. And I say that to clients all the time, like, hey, don't forget that audience. And my clients who I've had for a long time, they automatically know that I'm talking about the children. When I say don't forget that audience, right? Because they are watching all the time. And it's like, oh no, he don't know. He 5. Yes, he do. He's paying attention, right? So yeah, we watch it, and even if both parents are there, we still are paying attention to that mother doing everything. We starting to define what roles look like early. And going into even Erickson, where it's like that identity versus role confusion. That's at like 6 to 12. Where you're trying to figure out, who am I? So if most of your environment has been showing this level of independence, and people have to understand the difference of dependence, independence, and then interdependence, right? So it's like, dependent is like, I'm fully relying on you. And our environment and upbringing teaches us, don't depend on no one. Even when there's a man in the house, that mother is teaching her girls and boys, you don't need to depend on no man, especially to girls. And we speaking ethnicity wise, like, Black people tell their girls that all the time. And it's like, you got a whole husband here, you telling your girl, do not depend on no man. And I get what they're saying that for, but we miss what that message is teaching. Like, well, ma'am, I'm confused. Like, don't depend on no man, but I see a man here. So again, trying to identify who I am, but I'm seeing this, you telling me certain things. I'm watching relationships in very bad ways, and that kid is automatically saying, I ain't never gonna be like that. You ain't gonna never be able to leave me with these kids by myself.
Yes.
So it's not only the upbringing and environment, but you merge that into even the trauma.
Well, we'll get there.
Oh, okay.
You always trying to be ahead of the horse.
I'm sorry. So yes, I fully agree that it shapes and molds us. I do feel that as adults, we do have the responsibility to start to shift that. And that's why I did really like, social media. You know how I feel about it. You guys know how I feel about it. But I do like that it is able to be this
spark
conversation and almost propaganda your ass, and everybody is now buying into it, and it's like, oh wow, we're all doing it. So I do like that about it, but it's like we get to redefine the trauma, the environment, the upbringing, and shape it in what is softness for you.
Yeah, I think it's it's tricky, right? Mm-hmm. Because even as you're speaking, I'm my wheels are turning. And the even more contradicting thing about my life and my upbringing is my dad paid all the bills in my house, right? Like when my mother chose not to work, she didn't work, right? And actually for me, it was my father, I believe, who made me the way that I am, right? And so, yes, I watched my mother. She would try to tackle anything, which is something that I absolutely will do. But it was my father who, he worked a lot, and he said, work for what you want. Don't ask anybody for anything. And that was a constant thing. Like, if you want something, do what you have to do to get it. And so, and you remember, I might have shared this a few episodes ago or in some previous episode, when I told my dad I was like pregnant, he ain't asked me any questions, but like, well, you could take care of yourself, and you definitely know how to take care of somebody else. He asked me no other question.
Where's the papa? Who's the daddy?
He didn't ask me who the father. He didn't
Are you getting married now?
He didn't say what did the father say. He was like, yeah, okay, good. You I built you for this type of thing, and it was like, damn, right? And so
and
even
that reinforced everything that you already have learned and
absolutely. And so even though, and this is where it gets tricky, even though those words, even from a kid, were probably the purpose of those words were for encouragement, direction.
Absolutely.
It did create
a motherfucking monster. That's what it created. I don't care if you're about to give nice clinical words like some dominance, some independence. A monster.
It created some things that could present as difficulties in relationships, right? It presented with some things, because even if I get a flat tire, I promise you, my brain whirls at all the things that I can do to fix the tire before calling anybody. And that's a hard life.
Yo,
damn. That is hard.
Like, at 25, I would have been like, okay. And now in my 40s, that does not feel loving and soothing. It sounds tiresome. It sounds overwhelming. And it's not my topic, but it's like, I want listeners to be okay with saying, that's not even what I envisioned for me. Yes, I feel proud that I could, because my dad taught me how to change a tire as well, right? I don't think I could in this foreign car. I don't even know where the spare is here. I would have to call someone. But it's like there is a sense of pride there, like, wow, I'm able. But it's a difference of, the inability to do something, but also knowing that you are supported and you're covered. That's what I take from soft girl era, that I want my kids, my girls, my boys, even though I know we're saying soft girl ever, I want them to have the ability, but I really want them to learn that it is very self-serving to know you do have support. Life feels very, very different when you feel that.
It does. And so, just like Soph mentioned, it's so interesting how the law of attraction works, where when Sophia and I were initially having this conversation, I had said to her, like, damn, do you remember when I purchased my first home and we moved in the day I brought Journey from the hospital, right? And it would be snowing, feet of snow, and I would put Journey on the porch, strapped in the high chair while I shoveled snow, or having her in the carrier mowing the lawn. And so this is what I mentioned to you. And a couple of days later, a memory pops up in my Snapchat where I'm sitting on the porch. The lawnmower was blocking the walkway. And my kid, who probably was still in the 25, 30 pound range, is riding her little bike and yells, "Hey, that's in my way." She jumps off the bike and moves this big ass lawnmower out of the way. And I made a comment like, "Oh, she is her mother's child." Already creating, and she was aggressive with it, so like, "That's in my way," and marched over, pushed this thing out. Like, and I was like, and I rewatched that video.
Proud of that.
And I was like, damn, I'm doing the same thing.
Absolutely. It's a powerful awareness. You guys will never get tired of hearing me say the power of awareness. It will shift your whole way of thinking when it's like, oh my gosh, because a lot of times due to upbringing and environment, we're in survival mode, we're kind of in this autopilot, and until someone snaps, most of the time you snap and like get you fully present to pay attention to what's happening, you don't see anything wrong. And not to place judgment on it, right? But you don't even realize that this doesn't even feel good to me. But I just do it because I have to. And then we convince...
Or I've convinced myself that I have to.
Exactly. And then we convince and teach these little people, the audience, that this is just what you have to do. And more times than not, particularly with parents, we don't want to weigh them down and let them see that I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. It's like, okay, and I did it, and now we went to Chick-fil-A, or we went to, what's your other place, the burger place?
Red Robin?
Oh, we went to Red Robin right after that and did bath time and read a book. And it's like, I didn't see a glitch in his system. But who knows if when you go to bed, the tears that come up, like, I'm exhausted. And not even thinking about a man. But
or just, the knot that is developing in your right shoulder from the anxiety, tension, and frustration you carrying around.
Exactly. And it's like... But the audience didn't see any of that, right? So for me, even talking about that, I'm still learning the balance of what to share and expose my kids to, opposed to, you know, my mother did a good job of like, I never knew how much the bills cost. I never knew, you know, one day she said I had like a $2,000 jacket in like the 11th grade. And, I had made a comment to her, just classic only kid by her, brat. Like, I want to be the first person in Brooklyn to have this jacket. Like, everybody in Harlem has it, but I want to be the first person in Brooklyn to have it. She told me later in life, she pawned 2 of her rings for that. But in my mind, I'm like, yo, my mother gets it done. All my Jordans, she had a hookup with the sneaker man. So I got it 5 days before, got to wear it in the school before the release came out, and had no idea times that she didn't pay the bills for it or pawned 2 diamond rings to get me this stuff. And it's like, no judgment, right? She was doing the best that she could with what she had. But now I know better, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, no. For example, I took my kids on a cruise in January, and they said, it stopped in Bahamas. You two, my kids was like, oh, we going to Atlantis? No. And they were like, they couldn't believe I said no, because when we go away, it's like, yo, we away. We just going in. They was like, and the little one gotta be the one. That fucker said, why? I said, how about you getting construction done in your house, you getting something built right now. And I said, no. He was like, good point. My mother would not have said that before. My mother would have said, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to call somebody, have somebody wire some money to Bahamas to get it done. And it's like, no, I want them to know the balance of, it looks easy, but no, I'm really tired today. So when they say, oh, why are you going away by yourself? Because I need to regroup. I saw 30 clients this week, and there was some really sad stories, and I just need a moment for myself. Also, sometimes parenting is really tiresome. Sometimes I don't even want y'all to call me mommy because I don't like it. So I need a moment. Like, I have that kind of real conversation so they understand the balance, opposed to 10, 12, 18 feeling like you did this shit with ease. So I don't know nothing different but to be masculine, dominant, alpha.
You see, I
don't know nothing else because you have gave me one picture. But then we'll say things like, and I've heard you say this, you guys have heard her say, Journey was being ungrateful and all the things that I do for her, and she was being selfish.
Selfish.
Well, she don't know nothing else.
I know.
So how she's supposed to know you're so exhausted, you're so tired, you ripped and run, you saw 12 people on a Saturday, you did 2 yoga classes on the same Saturday and got her to a party, and you still just doing it. You've never said to her, hey, I'm tired, but I am going to try to push through today for you. But we think that these kids should know that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the balance for me. They need to be exposed more than just this ideology of, I don't want them to see that I struggle. Why not? Because life requires struggle at times.
Absolutely.
So we should not be masking them from, no, man, I wish a man was here to help us with this lawn today. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. But I wish somebody stronger was here to put this whole fucking Christmas bin in the attic.
You know the only thing I've said out loud that I need a man for? Take my trash out. I fucking hate taking out the trash. I've never started to like to do that. Other things I will do, but not take out the trash. So you mentioned trauma, and so that was number 2 on my list.
Okay,
trauma and experiences often make it difficult for women to step into that soft girl era.
Yes.
And so, and traumas, you know how we always say, traumas doesn't have to be the extremity of rape and abuse, right? But even if it was, it could be a trauma like, oh, my high school boyfriend got murdered, right? That is something that can harden the self. And when things happen to us that creates a reaction of hardening, embracing that softness, vulnerability, ease becomes extremely dangerous. It feels unsafe to be that way. Right? Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts? Because you was about to go in about trauma.
Yeah, I mean, besides what DSM-5, I tell people to define your own trauma, right? Sure. Like you said, it doesn't have to be, a murder or this and that. Sometimes trauma could just be your parents separating. Your whole life is different. You waking up to seeing 2 parents, even if they were arguing every day, right? That still was your norm of seeing them together. And now there is an absence, or now you are trying to figure out, now you go to your grandmother's house on the weekends, that could be a form of trauma. And now watching one parent struggle with getting you places or paying this and paying that could be traumatic, So I feel like those things that someone would not deem as, oh, that's not really traumatic, hardens the way you see the opposite sex, and even kind of distort the role you feel like you have to play all the time.
Sure.
And that makes it challenging to embrace, especially, you got to think everything that we've done, psychology says that anything that we do more than 21 days becomes a habit. So imagine, one, you watched it for however many years, and now at 32, you've been doing it for this. It's ingrained and entrenched in you to really not know no other way.
Right.
Due to the wiring. So remember what we know about trauma, psychologically, it shifts areas of the brain. You know, like the way neurons was activating and firing here, it dims that in that area. And it happens to maybe be your frontal, where now these executive decision making is different. So again,
Totally
trauma,
interrupted.
Yeah, so trauma not only does this psychological thing, this is the physiological, biological shift. So it's like everything in the world looks and seems different to you, and could then make you feel like this isn't safe. I know you're presenting to be helpful, but I also watch, you know, my uncle be helpful, and then he ran off like he was in fucking Harlem Nights and called and said, put your mama on the phone. I ain't coming back, you know, but he was helpful. He was this. So you cannot shake what has been ingrained in you. Well, not that you cannot, it takes the work, but trauma does stain so many areas of you, not to mention, you know, just hardening your heart.
Hardening your heart. And as you even with your example, right? It's even more difficult because sometimes you're not even aware.
That is the part.
Right?
That's the autopilot piece.
And so even with so use the example of parents splitting. Like, do you remember when my parents split? I was in my 20s.
Oh my gosh. Remember we had to come to your door. You didn't answer our phone for almost a week. And my last message was, if you do not pick up, I'm coming.
Psycho.
And I rallied
And
the
she was
other
pregnant.
one up.
Wasn't you pregnant?
I was not pregnant.
You was pregnant with Cam.
Think about the split. The age. Go back to where you was living, blah, blah, blah.
I was in Oakley. I was like 20 something. How old was we?
Early 20s.
Like 24. No, because remember I came back from after we graduated?
Yes, but
It was after we graduated.
I did not have no belly, like, at all, because I was just doing way too much movement. I was not pregnant.
Maybe that was a different time you just abruptly came to my house.
Well, yes, the alarm people contacted me. That's the one you're thinking of. They called and said that somebody broke into your house.
That was when you was pregnant with ZJ.
Oh, yeah. It was, you act like I got mad pregnancies out here. Which 8 kids you talking about? But I do not recall being, and I felt like it was younger than that.
You was 25?
When I had Cameron, yes.
You turned 25 after you had Cameron.
No.
Yeah.
Cameron was in July. My birthday's in January.
Oh, all right.
So that's why I didn't really do nothing for my 25th birthday, because I was pregnant. So it was a little younger. It was definitely in those 20s though, but I called the other one and was like, we're going over there. And she was like, no, but you know, she likes her space and it's way too long. And we didn't have family out here like that. So I'm like, this is as good as it's getting. Like, we're going there. And we still had to bang, like...
All right. Okay.
And it was like, open the door because we're not... Imagine me at 23, guys. I was like,
no boundaries, right?
Day kicking that door on like next Friday, like, open the fucking door. And it was like, walked in, like, snot nose, tissue around, blankets. I could visually see walking into that apartment.
So, and you kind of bringing that memory back up for me, I never denied that it was a struggle for me, right?
Called it trauma.
I don't know if I would even call it trauma, but I will say, just in thinking about how it shaped my viewpoint and it reinforced thoughts. And so my parents' story is they were together since they were in high school and they never got married. And my thought growing up was, as a teenager, as a adolescent, as a young adult, my thought was, what is the purpose of getting married if you want to be together? Just stay together.
That's exactly what you said when we met.
And that was always my frame of thought. It was, there's no real purpose of being married. If people want to be together, they will be together. And when my parents split up, I don't mind telling this, and maybe my parents don't listen anyway. And if you are, hey, JJ. Hey, JJ. Hey, Mary. They split up because my mother all of a sudden wanted to be married. And I was like, why? Right? And so when they did split up, it reinforced, what is the purpose of marriage? What is the purpose? And I think that even that strong, independent woman sense intensified. Yeah. It was something that added to the intensity of that attitude. This is not necessary. Yeah. Because you could spend over 20 something years with a person and this is how it could go. It absolutely reinforced that thought. Mm-hmm. And so that's what that just brought up for me is that experience probably added absolutely to the hardening and thus the difficulty in living in that soft girl era. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so that's really tricky. And like I just said, having not even thinking about it in that sense. Yeah. And so I do like that this can be a discussion, real therapists for the culture for a reason. We are here for the culture. And this is what the culture is talking about right now. And we need to understand how our wellness, mental, physical, and emotional affect all of these things that we experience in the world. Yeah. I mean, it's good to have the conversation, but it's also important to really take these factors into consideration, because what I have experienced is women saying like, just forget it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I was in my soft girl era for a whole week and went on a date with this fuck boy and I can't. And it's like, be gentle with yourself and remember there are so many factors that are playing a part of transition. Transition is challenging, not to mention the habitual patterns that we've been holding on to. And this is a big piece, right? So, a belief is just really a recurring thought. Mm-hmm. So now it went from the thought of, I don't need a man, or I got it, I'm independent, I could do it. And you've been saying that for so long, you watched it, and then it transitioned to you saying this and thinking it, and now it's a belief. So really trying to figure out how can I undo some of these beliefs. We want to go straight into the behaviors. That's one thing about this culture is the microwave culture. I want to move fast. Okay, I read this post. I'm a soft girl. That's it. And this is my era, right? And it's like, before you go into the actions and the behavior, you got to go step back into the thoughts that you hold, the beliefs that you hold about being a soft girl. As you unfold and unmask that, now the behavior aligns because you reframed or shift the beliefs and the thoughts you hold. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's important for us to say, I'm just going to do. And it's like, I got to go back to the beliefs. So even when I said to someone, what's the beliefs you hold about this? And they were like, oh my gosh, Sophia, you get on my nerves. And they was like, to be honest, the beliefs I hold about this is that's the person who's pussy, was the exact words, the person who's going to get ran over, the person who don't have a backbone, the person who's getting cheated on. And I said, tell them why you mad, Sway. And they kept going. So I'm like, slow down. You going straight into wanting to be in the era, which is the actions and the behaviors, but we got to challenge the beliefs you hold about it. Right. And that was the aha moment where it was like, boom, that is an important part of this conversation. What's the beliefs you really hold about it? That's Sophia's takeaway. We got one more area though. That's a good takeaway. The third thing that makes embracing the soft girl era difficult is our current realities. And in thinking about these current realities, such as being a single parent, maybe going through divorce, experiencing financial difficulty, those things create survivor mentality. Mm-hmm. And when we're in a survivor mentality or zone, it's extremely difficult to be soft, right? And so being a single parent household, like I told myself, you have no choice. Mm-hmm. You have no choice. Figure it out.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine the early part of Journey's life. Sophia, I cannot conceptualize how I could have been in soft girl era. I can't even think about what, I don't know. I would, yeah, nope. You know how in The Little Mermaid, in The Little Mermaid, how they like turn the stone, like Prince Eric turns the stone, or Elsa turns frozen in the movie. Like that is exactly what I envision in those earlier parts of life. When you feel like you just have to get it done or figure it out, or it might just be making it to the next day, right? I've never been through a divorce, right? But it's a long, drawn out process from what I see at many times, right? And so sometimes it's about getting through the day.
Yeah.
I don't know where my money is gonna come from. I don't know if my rent is gonna be paid. Why the fuck would I be soft? You know what I mean? How can I be soft?
Yeah, I do. I hear you. I hear you so loud and clear. And then there's this other side that I feel. And that other side is, yes, your current reality is all of those things that you said. But then there's like, this is the part that annoys me with the social media, right? That we're throwing out this. And then what happens is people have to feel like they have to adhere to that way, right? But it's like you get to create
how it looks for you.
What's your soft girl ever look like? So even though I hear you saying that I couldn't even imagine what a soft girl era looked like back then. And it's like, no, it would have been possible. That didn't mean that you would have stopped doing, but there still could have been a softness with you, a level of self-compassion with you, how I was defining it earlier. There still could have been, you were hard on you with this ideology of I am the one, and I, like Neo, right, from Matrix, I am the one, I'm the only one who's gonna get it done, and it was like, that belief put a lot of pressure on you. And there was times, emotionally, it was clear that impacted you. Not even what you had to do. The doing is the doing, right? It's that physical piece that, yes, weigh it down. But a lot of times, it's that emotional and mental torment that we place on ourselves of, I have to be the one to get it done, because if not, who else? This and that. That is an extra. A lot of times, we can handle the physical way. It's the other stuff that weighs us down, almost make us feel in bondage of something, sleepless nights, and just more, where it's like
bad skin.
This was the baseline, and I could have handled that. I added. So, like I said, I get the current situation but it's really like, what's my soft girl era? Because it can be available with the man, without the man. How am I attending to me the same way I'm nurturing these kids and other people and clients and whatever, but I'm still missing me? So I took what I read and started to redefine. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be the one that's just like, because I had a belief. I had a thought that this is just a person just floating and frolicking through and just always just, I almost saw the way I read it as passive, but that was the belief I held,
so
right?
Exactly. And that's where it's like the words feminine and masculine don't sit well with me, because masculinity equals aggression, femininity equals passivity, and I don't like that.
And that may not be the reality, right? But that's the beliefs that we hold about if someone is soft. Like I said 3 times where I'm from today, and anything that's soft was unacceptable where I was from. So that's
that environment.
Exactly. You even saying soft girl era, somebody's going to rob you. I don't even live somewhere where I would get robbed right now. But that's what came to my mind. You soft and somebody's going to take advantage of you. You pussy. And that's what the beliefs I held. And I had to redefine like, soft doesn't mean that. How do I reword it that feels suitable for me?
So I think that's a good way to.
I've been calling it gentle girl. because I realized for years I have to be gentle with me. So I've been calling it gentle girl. Make it your own shit.
So that's Sophia's first takeaway.
Takeaway.
Oh yeah, second takeaway. As we begin to close, is redefining or individualizing what soft girl really means for you. Because I think the pressure to want to embrace or adhere to the soft girl life even can create more
anxiety
and anxiety and all these types of things.
Like, oh no. And like, even like, how could one era look the same for all of us? That sounds crazy, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you come to the table with what you define as trauma, what I define as trauma, our environment, our upbringing, all of those things that you list. It's no way your soft girl era could look like mine.
Right.
But as long as I'm saying, no, please be clear, this is gentle girl era, you better accept that. Because I also know hard girl era, and I know natural core me. So when I say this is gentle, but it might not look like yours. Yours may be, because you're loud, right? So yours may be just...
Nope, I'm not loud.
You say that. Me and my family are loud. Like, yours may be, your voice tone may be lower, right? Or it
facial expressions, body language, because I think a lot of assumptions made about my reactions to situations is gauged from my body language, and usually it's might be inaccurate,
right? Because people who have like social awkwardness, we've said that before, right? Sometimes the facial, it's even a little Aspergerish. Only people who have kids with autism could make jokes like that, right? But it's possibly the truth that what you're reading may not even be what she'll make facial expressions as the wheels are turning. So it really may not even be connected to what you just shared.
Absolutely.
Like you'll make a face like that, but that's really times when you're thinking.
It's my ADHD. Because you know what I was just sitting here thinking? I was just sitting here thinking like, damn, our listeners probably like, why the fuck Dr. L ain't got no man? And then I had this, then my brain went from there to, I was like, well, maybe one day somebody will call in on the radio, like,
what?
On the episode of Brown Sugar. And then this is all, I promise y'all this was just happening.
And you was not fully present with all
of
these thoughts.
I was listening to.
You cannot be fully present with all of these
Angie Marr, like, so we got a call. You remember that episode?
Yes.
So Suge, when do you fall in love with hip hop? No.
Yo, we referenced 8 movies today.
We are always all over the place. No, but I guess my takeaway, and it's a borrowed one because it was one that was repeatedly stated when I was kind of doing my research about this topic. It was about self-care, and not just self-care like, oh, go get your nails done, your hair done, but being kind to yourself. And once you can be soft with yourself, because most of us are externally hard because we're internally hard on ourselves.
Yes.
And so the thought is, if you are not as hard on yourself, meaning engaging in self-blame,
unforgiveness,
guilt, destructive thoughts, being extremely overcritical of yourself, that will be seen on the outside, and thus you may portray more softness in other situations. If you can be soft with yourself, you can be soft with other people. It may feel more safe for you to be vulnerable and soft in other environments.
Yeah, the rule for that is whatever it is that you want to organically show someone else, you'll never be able to do it until you learn how to be that way with you. So the takeaways I've given, but to add to that is really learning how to just be present, because, like I said, the patterns, the habitual behaviors or the ways of being has been that way for so long that being in this survival mode, or even sometimes just being a bystander in your own life, autopiloting through life, it takes really grounding yourself and reflecting. And sometimes that requires, not sometimes, it requires you to be fully present. So if that means, adding to self-care kind of stuff is like, people will say, oh, I can't meditate. And it's like, no, you don't have to meditate like Gandhi for 8 hours straight. Do small increments. 1 minute. YouTube is something that I do enjoy because I feel like it's a vast, information board, so even putting in meditation for beginners, it'd be like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Just finding ways to practice quiet in the mind. And the more you become present with you, then you are able to become aware of how you show up. How you show up to you. So some of these things is like we're saying to do, but we can't because you're always on the go. You're always moving. I got to go here. I got to do there. I got to get my business off the ground. I got to, even people who speak too fast, I say, can you slow down for me? Can you slow down for me? And I'll slow my pace down to almost try to model it, bring it down. So it's like you can't reflect. You can't, do self-care. You can't if you're convincing yourself I'm busy all the time. Just really be present so that you could tap in. That's one for mine all the time, but in this way.
So my other one is just to reject the thought that life is supposed to be hard. I like that. I feel like, a lot of times when things happen in our life, older people, my parents have said it to me, well, life is not fair. Well, life is not easy, right? And even though there may be some truth to that, that does not mean that we have to respond in the same type of way.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we think like, oh, it's supposed to be this way, then we respond accordingly. Nah, life happens. My thing. Life happens without our permission. We get to choose how we respond to life. And so slow down and choose how you want to respond to life.
Yeah, I really like that statement, reject that life is hard. And, I said it before, but I just want to kind of restate on my last one is being very intentional in how you define what this looks like. And I'm a writer, even down to my schedule. People cannot believe that I still write in a schedule.
I hate her handwriting though.
I write.
It's kind of cursive-y.
I write in a schedule. So, write the vision, make it plain kind of thing on some scriptural type of thing. But write it down for you so that you can see when you say what your soft girl era looks like, write that down and without overthinking it. I joked with Dr. L by saying it might be lowering your tone or your voice. Say that's on your list. Okay. Because that feels soft to you. When people speak to you in a loud way that makes you feel uncomfortable, uneasy, and anxious, it's you know what? I do want to lower my tone. I do want to be intentional about if it is getting my nails done every few weeks or whatever the case is. Write your error down and also be okay with changing the language. Yes. It don't have to be. I told you I call mine's gentle girl era. So it doesn't have to be soft girl ever. You get the concept, but make it your own. I promise you that it will feel even more exciting to go into something that's yours. It's
say that this is mine.
Say it's like a business and it's today I'm doing a ribbon cutting or I'm going into my business. Your vision, it makes it not feel daunting. Can I do this? It's yours.
But let me add to
Craft
that. I'll add and we can close. In addition to Sophia's suggestion of creating your own, understand that you can edit those plans whenever the fuck you want to.
Yes.
Right?
I've changed mine 4 times and I only heard about it 6 months ago.
You can say, you know what? that doesn't really work in my definition. That doesn't work in my recipe for soft girl era.
Not right now.
So, you know, I'm gonna do it different. You know, think about all the different ways people make pizza, right? You go to Chicago, the cheese is on the bottom, right? And so you get to decide how you do it, when you change it up, and what it's gonna look like for you.
I like that.
And so
that. Don't make it law once you do write it. Like it could change.
I'm gonna start making my recipe. I'm gonna start making my recipe. And I'll let you know how it goes.
And we would love to hear from you guys too. Like, let us know what your recipe looks like, because that's the thing, right? Your recipe can't be mine, but there is something on there that I'm like, oh wow, I didn't think I needed that. But now that I think about it, because like I said, I've changed mine quite a few.
So times. I was gonna ask you, like when I asked you, like, was any of your top 5 soft girl?
Yeah.
Then I was gonna ask you, like, where did I go?
You
can tell me after. You can tell me after we get on.
Okay.
Like, because I don't think I'm like at the bottom, but I know I'm probably in the middle, because I'm yeah. Anyway, so
exactly.
Thank you for rocking with us. This was good.
This was good. And you know, I think that this is a good time. Yeah, it's been out for a while, but this is a good time as the seasons get ready to change.
Yeah.
It's powerful when, you know, as you clear out winter clothes and bringing some spring stuff out. Do that.
Nobody does that but us.
People do.
People do not put winter clothes away anymore.
Oh. All right, well,
people in Baltimore don't. And you know what Tika said to me?
Don't give them that whole charge.
Tika said, it's fall here all year round. And I was like,
but that's people who live upstate, where it's like, no, wait a minute, you got your winter boots out, you got your whole, so I get it.
Yes.
But still, even if it's spring cleaning, you changing your pillows and your curtains, whatever it is, it's a good time to do that reflection on you. Anytime is a good time. So thank you. Until next time, be kind to you. But you can follow us on
Instagram, Facebook
at Real Therapists.
You can email us
at realtherapists@gmail.com. And you can listen to us on everything that's available.
YouTube, Spotify.
Oh, don't forget
Apple,
YouTube, guys.
Google.
What my kids say, hit the subscribe button.
Like and subscribe.
At the bottom. Yeah.
Yes. Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Peace out.